and plan and conspire and prepare and execute 8 individuals. And you will learn that they were killed, most of them were killed while they were sleeping or in their beds, with the exception of Chris Sr. and Gary Rhoden, who were awake. It kind of starts with a love story, if you want to call that. A very young teenage girl, Hanna Mae Rhoden, age 13 at the time, was at the Pike County Fairgrounds. She participated in 4-H, and she had bunnies, and somebody introduced her to Jacob, who was almost 18 at that time, and she kept asking him to look at her bunnies or pet her bunnies. Jake will tell you that he was annoyed initially, but then on a second chance meeting, they started dating, if you can date at age 13. That was in August of 2010. Reportedly, Jake gets permission from Chris Rhoden Sr. to date his daughter, his very young daughter. Chris Rhoden agrees, but he always sends along a chaperone, either Frankie or little Chris, go with Hanna Mae whenever she's hanging out with Jake Rhoden. And you will learn as well that Chris Rhoden Sr. also knew Billy Wagner. They were in fact friends. And so because of that, he gave his permission for her to be dating Jake. A few years later, Jake asked Chris Rhoden Sr.'s permission to propose to his daughter. Chris Rhoden permitted the proposal, but informed Jake that he would not permit his daughter to marry anybody until she was 18 years of age. So they had an engagement where they tattooed wedding rings on themselves. And then you will learn that Hanna Mae got pregnant when she was 15 years of age. And at that time, Jake was 20 years of age. It was during the pregnancy that we see the first signs of trouble. There are text messages from Jake to Hanna Mae, which state that she has to make a decision whether to be with him or not, whether to live with him or not, that Sophia, they had already named their child, was going to live with him no matter what. So if she wanted to be with Sophia, she would have to come and stay with him. And he says, quote, "I'll take Sophie, and if I have to, by force." This is when Sophia was still inside of Hanna Mae's womb. She gave birth to Sophia in November of 2013. She did stay with the Wagners periodically up on Bethel Hill Road. If you recall, we went up to Bethel Hill Road during the jury view. That was the hill that we literally went up. That was, I think, day 2 of our jury view. We went up the hill. Once you got up there, there was a trailer. That trailer was not there previously. That's now a hunting cabin. But we asked you to look first to the left of that trailer out in the distance, and there was some structure there. That was the home that they lived in at the time. As a side note, on the way down from Bethel Hill, we had you look off to the right. You stayed on the bus, and we had you look generally in a location. That was the location of the first residence of the Wagners, which you will learn burned down. Ultimately, the Wagners moved to Peterson Road, 260 Peterson Road. That was the location. It was a red house. It had a pool, a standing pool outside. It had 2 barns we had you go through. We had you look at a well. We had you look at a cistern inside one of the barns, if you recall that. That pool was not there when the Wagners lived there. That's something that the new owners have improved on the property. Likewise, there was, I think, a deck on the cabin right by the pool that they had put on. So there were some things that were different. But for the most part, structurally, it was the same. So Hanna Mae lived with Jake and George and Angela at 260 Peterson Road. You will learn that when they were on Bethel Hill, Billy lived with them. But once they moved to Peterson Road, it was only Jake and George and Angela Wagner. And Tabitha Wagner, who was George's spouse, they got married in 2012. And she lived there, as well as Hannah Mae would stay there sometimes. Sometimes she would go home to her family. Eventually, Hannah Mae leaves Jake in early 2015. She calls her father, asks for him to come get her. Jake had choked her, and she just could not handle the controlling nature of not just Jake, but also the family. You will learn that she found difficulty because Angela Wagner, or Jake wanted Angela Wagner to really parent Sophia Wagner. And she said it was awkward because they would want her, Sophia, to call Angela mom, even when Hannah Mae was sitting right there. So again, just this kind of controlling. There was fat shaming, trying to keep her from her family. And you will see that they also did these sorts of things to Tabitha Wagner and later to the wife of Jake Wagner. Once Hannah Mae left Jake, she started dating somebody named Charlie Gilley, who was the brother of Hannah Hazel Gilley. You will learn that she did not date him for long because he had a drug habit, and she was not tolerant of that, and so she stopped dating him. She started dating another individual named Corey Holdren. After she started dating Corey Holdren, she learned that she was pregnant. And she knew that the child belonged to Charlie Gilley, just based on the timing and everything. She let Corey Holdren know that, and you will hear from him that he elected to stay with her because they had a very loving and supportive relationship. In fact, he will tell you that he had an addiction to pills that Hannah Mae helped him get over. She insisted that he not use drugs if they were going to remain together, and she stayed with him during the period of time that he was withdrawing from those drugs. So at this point, Jake is continuously trying to get Hannah Mae to come back to him, threatening to keep Sophia from her, and goes to see an attorney for custody. And you will learn that Hannah Mae goes to that attorney, even though it's Jake's attorney, and she knows that, and meets with them. But you will learn from that attorney that Hannah Mae was not interested in signing any custody paperwork. She wanted things to just remain status quo. She would ask for changes, they would make it, but she still would refuse to sign the papers. And ultimately, when they learned that she was pregnant, they decided to put that to the side. And again, that was in late 2015. So at this point, I'm going to bring in Tabitha Wagner, which is George Wagner's